Tom Sanders sighed as he tossed another bag of garbage into the dumpster behind his apartment building in Neo-San Francisco. The night air was brisk, carrying the hum of the city that never seemed to sleep. As he turned to leave, a faint, peculiar cry stopped him in his tracks. "What the?" Tom muttered, peering into the dumpster. The sound was unlike anything he'd ever heard, a melodic wail that tugged at his heartstrings. Carefully, he climbed up for a better look. Wrapped in a shimmering silver fabric was a small, blue-skinned creature with large, luminous eyes. It was unmistakably alien, its tiny hands reaching out as if asking for help. Tom's initial shock gave way to concern. "Hey there, little guy. What are you doing in here all by yourself?" the baby cooed, its eyes locking with Tom's. Despite the oddity of the situation, Tom felt a protective urge wash over him. He gently lifted the child out of the dumpster. "I can't just leave you here," he said, more to himself than to the baby. Back in his cramped studio apartment, Tom laid the baby on his couch, surrounded by canvases and paint supplies. The baby's cry had softened, now just a quiet whimper. "Okay, you need a name," Tom decided, studying the creature's serene face. "How about Leo? You look like a Leo." The door banged open suddenly, and in walked Jamie, Tom's neighbor and occasional drinking buddy. "Tom, I heard screaming." Jamie stopped short, staring at Leo. "What the hell is that?" "It's a baby, I think. Found him in the dumpster, but he's not human," Tom explained, still somewhat in disbelief himself. Jamie approached cautiously, then smiled as Leo giggled and waved his hands. "He's kind of cute. What are you going to do with him?" Tom looked at Leo, his decision clear. "I'm going to take care of him. Can you grab some supplies? Bottles, formula, maybe some diapers?" "Sure thing," Jamie replied, already grabbing his keys. "You're serious about this?" "Yeah," Tom affirmed, his gaze softening as he looked at Leo. "I can't just turn him over to the authorities. Who knows what they'd do to him?" As Jamie left, Tom turned his attention back to Leo, speaking softly. "You and me, kid. We'll figure this out together." The rest of the night was a blur of feeding attempts, diaper changes, and soothing murmurs. Leo, for all his alien features, behaved much like any human baby. Curious, needy, and endearing. Tom knew challenges lay ahead, but as he watched Leo finally drift to sleep, a peaceful expression on his face, he felt ready to face them. Whatever secrets Leo held, whatever troubles might come knocking, Tom was determined to protect this unexpected new life that had fallen, quite literally, into his hands. Morning light filtered through the blinds of Tom Sanders' studio apartment, casting long shadows across the canvas-strewn floor. Tom, seated at his makeshift dining table, cradled Leo in one arm while trying to spoon-feed him what was supposedly formula. Leo, however, was more interested in levitating the small objects around the room. "Hey, buddy, focus here, please," Tom coaxed, gently guiding Leo's face back towards the spoon that he was slowly floating away from. "We've got to figure out your diet, but you've got to work with me." Just then, Jamie walked in, his arms laden with baby supplies and a few books on child development he'd picked up from the local library. "Got everything I could think of," he announced, dropping the bags on the kitchen counter. "Also found these books. Thought they might help us crack the baby code, alien or not." Tom chuckled, setting down the now empty bottle. "Thanks, Jamie. I'm not sure how much human baby advice applies here, but we can adapt, right?" Jamie picked up a floating pacifier and handed it back to Leo, who giggled and grabbed it with his small blue hands. "Seems like adapting is the name of the game," Jamie agreed. "So, any luck with feeding?" Tom sighed. "He's not too keen on the formula. I think we might need to try something else. Maybe something more natural?" He was unsure, the responsibility of caring for an alien life form weighing heavily on him. As they brainstormed, there was a knock at the door. Tom tensed, a wave of anxiety washing over him. He wasn't ready to explain Leo to anyone else yet. Jamie peeked through the peephole and relaxed. "It's just Mrs. Chen from next door." Mrs. Chen entered, holding a container of her homemade soup. "I heard you had a rough night, thought you might need this," she said, smiling warmly until her eyes fell on Leo. Her smile faltered, but only for a moment. "Oh, what a unique child you have, Tom." Tom managed a nervous smile. "Yeah, he's one of a kind. Thanks for the soup, Mrs. Chen." She nodded, placing the soup on the table. "You know, when my daughter was little, she had dietary issues. Sometimes traditional remedies worked better than anything the doctors suggested." Tom's eyes lit up with hope. "Traditional remedies?" "Yes. she continued, her interest piqued by Leo's curious gaze. Different broths and natural foods. Maybe he needs something more organic? Grateful for the advice, Tom accepted the soup. I'll try anything at this point. Over the next few days, Tom and Jamie experimented with various foods, cautiously introducing Leo to different flavors and textures. Surprisingly, Leo showed a preference for slightly more exotic fruits and seemed to thrive on the natural broths Mrs. Chen suggested. As Tom adjusted to his new life with Leo, his art began to reflect his experiences. His latest paintings, vibrant and full of emotion, caught the eye of an art gallery owner who offered him a chance to exhibit. Amid the chaos of raising an alien child, Tom found a sliver of normalcy in his art. It was an unexpected silver lining, providing a much-needed financial boost and a creative outlet for all the emotions he couldn't express otherwise. However, the challenges were just beginning. Leo's growing abilities, telekinesis being just one, needed guidance, and Tom realized that hiding in plain sight might not be viable for long. The world was vast, and Leo's existence too extraordinary to keep secret forever. Several months had passed since Tom first found Leo, and life in Neo-San Francisco had settled into a new kind of normal. As Leo's abilities grew, so too did his curiosity about the world around him. Tom found himself not just a caretaker, but a teacher, guiding Leo through the complexities of human life and emotion. One crisp morning, as Tom and Leo played in the park, a curious crowd gathered. Leo's innocent attempts at catching leaves mid-air without touching them drew whispers and wide-eyed stares. Tom, Jamie said, watching from a nearby bench. People are starting to notice. It's not every day you see a kid stopping leaves in flight. I know, Tom sighed, lifting Leo into his arms as the child tired of his game. It's getting harder to keep this a secret. But what choice do we have? As they walked home, Tom mulled over his options. It was Jamie who broke the silence. Maybe it's not about hiding. Maybe it's about teaching Leo how to control his abilities, to blend in. That makes sense, Tom nodded. But we'll need help. I don't even know where to start. Back at their apartment, Tom began researching in earnest, diving into forums and reaching out discreetly to experts under the guise of writing a sci-fi novel. His efforts paid off when he connected with Dr. Eliza Harris, a retired physicist with a keen interest in extraordinary phenomena. Dr. Harris agreed to meet them, intrigued by Tom's hypothetical scenarios. Upon seeing Leo in action, her academic curiosity turned into a resolve to help. Leo is truly remarkable, Dr. Harris observed as she watched him interact with her experiments, designed to test the limits of his telekinesis. His abilities might be beyond our current understanding of physics, but they're not beyond management. Discipline and training can help him integrate better. Under Dr. Harris's guidance, Tom and Leo worked on controlling and concealing Leo's powers. Their training sessions were rigorous but filled with laughter and learning, strengthening the bond between Tom and Leo. Leo was quick to learn, eager to please Tom, and soon able to play with other children without revealing his abilities. Through it all, Tom continued to teach Leo about human values and emotions, using their daily experiences as lessons. He explained the importance of kindness, empathy, and respect, values he hoped would guide Leo through human interactions. Leo soaked up these lessons, his understanding and emotional depth growing daily. He asked questions about everything, from the stars above to the smallest insects in the garden. His perspective was often insightful, sometimes startlingly so, reminding Tom that despite his human upbringing, Leo saw the world differently. One evening, as they watched the sunset from their apartment window, Leo looked up at Tom and said, "Tom, why are people afraid of what they don't know?" Tom ruffled Leo's hair, searching for the right words. "Sometimes, fear comes from not understanding. That's why we're learning about each other, right? To replace fear with understanding." Leo nodded, a thoughtful frown on his face. "I will help people understand too," he promised, a determined glint in his youthful eyes. Their journey wasn't just about hiding or survival, it was about understanding and integration. Tom realized that Leo, with his unique abilities and perspectives, had as much to teach him about life as he had to teach Leo. Their bond, built on mutual trust and affection, was their greatest strength, preparing them for whatever challenges lay ahead. As Tom and Leo continued to navigate the complexities of their unique family life, the outside world became increasingly curious and invasive. Reports of a child with extraordinary abilities had begun to circulate, catching the attention of both the media and more secretive organizations. One chilly evening, as Tom and Leo returned from one of Dr. Harris's training sessions, they noticed a black sedan parked conspicuously across their street. Tom felt a prickling sense of unease, recalling Jamie's recent warnings about a vehicle that seemed to appear too often during their outings. "Tom," Jamie whispered urgently over the phone that night. "That car's been parked outside for over an hour now, and it's not the first time. Someone's watching you." Tom peered through the blinds, his stomach knotting. "Okay, let's not jump to any conclusions. It could be nothing." But Jamie was insistent. "Nothing? Tom, this isn't normal. We need to be careful. Maybe it's time to talk to someone who can offer more than just training help." The next day, under the guise of a casual walk, Tom and Jamie met with an old friend of Jamie's, a former intelligence officer named Mark. In a quiet corner of a bustling cafe, Tom outlined his situation. Mark listened intently, his expression growing increasingly grave. "Tom, from what you're describing, it sounds like you've attracted the interest of some high-level players. They could be government, private sector. It's hard to say. But you're right to be concerned." "What should I do?" Tom asked, his voice tense. "I can't just keep running. I have to protect Leo." Mark nodded, his mind racing through options. "First, we need to find out who they are and what they want. I have contacts who can help us dig deeper. In the meantime, keep your routine unpredictable and stay low." Grateful but worried, Tom tightened his resolve to protect Leo at all costs. He and Jamie began altering their routes to and from home and diversifying their daily schedules. Despite their efforts, the black sedan and other signs of surveillance persisted. It became clear that these observers were not deterred by their countermeasures. One afternoon, as Tom and Leo played in a secluded part of the park, a man approached them. He was nondescript, middle-aged, and wore a friendly smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Hello, Tom," he said calmly. "My name is Agent Crawford. I need to talk to you about your son." Tom's heart raced as he stood protectively in front of Leo, who clung to his leg, sensing the tension. "We're not interested in any trouble," Tom stated firmly. Agent Crawford's smile faded. "Tom, we're not here to cause trouble. We're here to understand and hopefully to help. Leo is special, and there are people who want to ensure his safety and potentially utilize his talents." Tom knew they weren't just dealing with curiosity anymore. This was about control. He looked down at Leo, whose wide eyes were filled with a mix of fear and curiosity. "We don't need any help," he replied tersely, turning to leave. Agent Crawford watched them go, his expression unreadable. "We'll be in touch," he called after them, a clear indication that this was far from over. That evening, Tom realized that their lives had irrevocably changed. They were now players in a much larger game, one that involved powers beyond their simple understanding of right and wrong. As he tucked Leo into bed, Tom whispered a silent promise to protect his adopted son, no matter what forces they faced. In the days following their unsettling encounter with Agent Crawford, Tom's concern for Leo's safety reached new heights. Despite his instinct to confront the situation head-on, he knew they needed a more strategic approach. He and Jamie decided it was best to leave the city temporarily and lay low while they figured out their next steps. With the help of Mark and Dr. Harris, they arranged a safe house in an old remote town in Nevada. The town, mostly abandoned after the local mining industry collapsed, offered the perfect cover with its sparse population and limited connectivity. As they settled into the dusty, creaky house, Tom set up a small workshop and art studio where he could keep up with his work, both as a cover and to maintain some normalcy. Leo, on the other hand, was fascinated by the vast desert landscape, its stark beauty so different from the bustling city parks he was used to. "Remember, Leo," Tom instructed as they explored the rugged terrain, "you can't use your powers out here like you did in the park. It's not safe. We don't know who might be watching." Leo nodded solemnly. "I understand, Tom. I'll be careful." Days turned into weeks, and with no sign of Agent Crawford or his associates, Tom began to hope that perhaps they had evaded their pursuers. During this time, Leo's control over his abilities improved significantly under Dr. Harris's remote guidance. She sent exercises and lessons via secure communications, and Leo soaked up the knowledge eagerly. One evening, as Tom worked on a new painting inspired by the desert sunset, Jamie burst into the studio, a troubled look on his face. "We've got a problem," he said, holding up his tablet displaying a drone image. "I spotted a couple of unfamiliar vehicles heading this way. Looks like they're not just passing through." Tom's heart sank. How long do we have? An hour, maybe less. Tom wiped his hands on his apron, his mind racing. Okay, we need to hide Leo. There's a cellar under the old barn. It's not much, but it should keep him out of sight. As they prepared to move Leo to the hiding spot, Tom knelt before him. Leo, you need to stay in the cellar until I come to get you. Can you do that for me? Leo, understanding the seriousness of the situation, nodded. I'll wait for you, Tom. With Leo safely hidden, Tom and Jamie prepared to confront the newcomers. They weren't going to let anyone take Leo without a fight. The vehicles arrived just as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the dusty ground. Tom watched from behind the curtain as several men equipped with what looked like scanning technology began to survey the area. He turned to Jamie. Let's try talking to them. If things go south, we'll have to make a run for it. Stepping outside into the cool evening air, Tom approached the men, his voice steady. Can I help you folks with something? The leader of the group, a stern-looking man with a badge that read Federal Security, stopped and faced Tom. We're conducting a routine check. Heard there were some disturbances in the area. Tom kept his expression neutral. Just quiet desert nights here, but if we see anything, we'll be sure to let you know. The man nodded slowly, eyeing Tom and Jamie suspiciously before eventually signaling his team to move on. Keep your eyes open, he warned, before they got back into their vehicles and drove away. Tom exhaled deeply, watching the taillights disappear into the night. He knew this was only a temporary reprieve. They needed a more permanent solution, and soon. But for now, they had won another day of freedom, and it was time to bring Leo out from the dark, cold cellar. The close call with the federal agents had shaken Tom, but it also crystallized the reality of their situation. It was only a matter of time before they would be found. Despite the relief of evading capture that night, Tom knew they needed a more sustainable plan. Over the next few days, Tom and Jamie worked with Dr. Harris to devise a strategy for a more permanent solution to hide Leo's existence. Their discussions were interrupted when Jamie, who had been monitoring communications for any hint of government movement, burst into the room with urgent news. They're moving in, Tom, Jamie reported, his voice tense. I intercepted some transmissions. They've got orders to detain us and take Leo into custody. They could be here within the day. Tom felt a cold dread settle in his stomach. We need to move, now. Let's get everything we can carry and get out of here. As they hurriedly packed their essentials, Leo sensed the urgency and fear. Tom, what's happening? Are we in danger? He asked, his voice quivering slightly. Tom knelt beside him, placing his hands on Leo's shoulders. We have to go somewhere safe, Leo. It's going to be all right, but we need to leave this place. They loaded up their old truck with supplies and were about to pull out of the driveway when a fleet of black SUVs turned onto their street, dust billowing behind them as they sped towards Tom's safe house. It's too late, Tom. They're here, Jamie shouted. Realizing there was no escape, Tom made a quick decision. Jamie, take the truck and get out of here. Lead them away from Leo. But Tom, just do it, Jamie. I'll take care of Leo, Tom insisted, pushing Jamie towards the driver's side. Reluctantly, Jamie nodded and sped off, drawing several of the SUVs after him. Tom grabbed Leo's hand and led him to a hidden back exit they had prepared for emergencies. They made their way into the dense brush behind the house, but their escape was short-lived. Agents, anticipating their move, surrounded them, guns drawn. Tom Sanders, you are under arrest for harboring an extraterrestrial entity and evasion of federal authority, the leading agent announced through a loudspeaker. Tom stood protectively in front of Leo, his heart pounding as he faced the inevitable. I'm not resisting, but please, don't hurt him. He's just a child, Tom pleaded, hoping to appeal to their humanity. The agents hesitated, and for a moment, Tom thought they might have a chance to negotiate. But then Agent Crawford stepped forward, his face devoid of emotion. Secure the boy, and take Mr. Sanders into custody. Leo was pulled from Tom's grasp, despite his cries and struggles. Tom fought back, but was quickly subdued and handcuffed. As he was led away, his eyes met Leo's, filled with tears and confusion. I'm sorry, Leo. I promise. I'll find you, Tom called out, his voice choked with emotion. The drive back to the city was a blur for Tom, his mind racing with fear for Leo and guilt for not being able to protect him. At a secure government facility, Tom was placed in a holding cell, isolated and uncertain, consumed by worry about what was happening to Leo. Inside the sterile walls of the government facility, Tom felt the weight of failure pressing down on him. Isolated in a small cell with nothing but time, his thoughts spiraled around Leo, where he was, what they were doing to him, and how scared he must feel. Meanwhile, Leo was held in a secure research wing of the same facility, subjected to a barrage of tests and observations. Despite the cold clinical environment, Leo's innate resilience shone through. He remembered everything Tom had taught him about courage and kindness, and it gave him strength. Leo's unique abilities quickly became apparent to the researchers, particularly his capacity for telepathy and manipulating electronic devices. While they saw him as a subject to be studied, Leo used these sessions to learn and plan. He reached out with his mind, slowly and carefully making contact with Tom. "Tom," Leo whispered into the void one night, hoping his thoughts would find their way. Tom, lying awake in his cell, felt a warmth brush against his consciousness. "Leo, is that you?" "Yes, Tom, I'm scared, but I remember what you said about being brave." Leo's voice echoed in Tom's mind, a bittersweet mixture of relief and sorrow filling Tom. "I'm so proud of you, Leo. I'm going to get us out of here, I promise. Just hold on," Tom replied, his mind racing with a renewed sense of purpose. Over the next few days, Leo used his interactions with the facility's technology to create a map of the building in his mind. He pinpointed where Tom was being held and studied the patterns of the guards. The night of their planned escape, Leo reached out to Tom. "Get ready. When the lights go out, that's your signal. I'll open the door." Tom, ready and waiting, felt a surge of hope. As the facility's lights flickered and died, a sudden darkness enveloping the corridors, Tom heard the electronic lock on his door click open. In the confusion that followed, Leo used his telekinesis to navigate through the shadows, avoiding guards and surveillance. He made his way to Tom's cell, the two reuniting with a silent, heartfelt embrace. "Let's go. We need to move fast," Tom whispered, taking Leo's hand as they snuck through the dimly lit halls, guided by Leo's telepathic sense of direction. They encountered a few guards, but Leo, more confident in his abilities, managed to disarm them with non-lethal force, his control over his powers more precise than ever. Reaching the facility's garage, they found a row of vehicles. Leo, with a concentrated effort, unlocked one and started the engine through his interface with the vehicle's electronic system. As they drove away from the facility, Tom looked over at Leo, his heart full of mixed emotions: pride, relief, but above all, an unshakable determination. "We're not safe yet, Leo. We need to find a place to hide, regroup, and figure out our next steps." Leo nodded, his young face set with a determination that mirrored Tom's. "I want to help, Tom, like you helped me." Tom smiled, squeezing Leo's hand gently. "You already have, more than you know." Their escape marked a new chapter in their journey, not just for survival, but for taking a stand. Tom knew that the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but with Leo by his side, he felt ready to face whatever came their way. They were no longer just fugitives. They were fighters, ready to protect their right to live free. After their daring escape from the government facility, Tom and Leo found refuge in a secluded cabin deep in the Rocky Mountains, a place Tom's late uncle had left him years ago. It was remote, off-grid, and most importantly, safe. Here, they had time to heal and plan their next moves. During the day, Tom and Leo explored the vast wilderness around them. The natural world was a new and thrilling experience for Leo, and his excitement helped lift Tom's spirits. They talked often about their future, about what they wanted and what they feared. "We can't hide forever, Leo," Tom said one crisp morning, their breaths visible in the cool mountain air. "Sooner or later, we'll need to face the world again. We'll need to decide how we want to live in it." Leo, growing not only in stature but in wisdom too, nodded thoughtfully. "I want to help people understand, Tom, like how you helped me. Maybe we can show them that being different isn't something to fear." Tom smiled, proud of the young being Leo was becoming. "That's a good plan, but we'll need allies, people who can help us share our story." Through encrypted messages, Tom reached out to Dr. Harris and Jamie, who were relieved to hear they were safe and eager to help in any way they could. They began to form a network of supporters, individuals from all walks of life who believed in the right for beings like Leo to exist freely among humans. As winter gave way to spring, the cabin became a meeting place for this growing group of allies. They worked together to craft a message, a plea for understanding and acceptance that they planned to broadcast worldwide. When the day of the broadcast arrived, Leo was nervous, but Tom was at his side, steadfast and reassuring. Together, they addressed the world, telling their story from the beginning, showing Leo's humanity despite his alien origin. The response was overwhelming. While some skepticism and fear persisted, many embraced Leo's story as a beacon of hope and a call to expand their understanding of life and consciousness. Debates began, policies were questioned, and slowly the world started to change. Tom and Leo continued to advocate for interspecies rights, using their story to bridge gaps between communities and foster a deeper understanding of life in all its forms. Leo grew into a spokesperson for peace and acceptance, his unique abilities allowing him to connect with people in profound and moving ways. Years later, Leo stood before a diverse crowd at the United Nations, not as a curiosity, but as a leader. His speech was broadcasted globally, resonating with millions. Every being, no matter their origin, shares a desire for connection, for understanding, for peace, Leo said, his voice steady and sure. Today we stand together, not as humans or aliens, but as fellow beings, striving for a shared future. Tom watched from the audience, his heart full of mixed emotions, pride, love, and an overwhelming sense of hope. They had faced unimaginable challenges, but together they had ignited a movement that changed the world. As Leo concluded his speech to thunderous applause, Tom realized that their journey had indeed brought about a new dawn, not just for them, but for all of humanity. Their story was a testament to the power of compassion, understanding, and the unyielding bond between a father and his son, no matter their differences.